The night on Orion 9 was cold and silent. The red sand moved like waves under the strong desert wind. Ryan Cole sat alone in his repair station, a small metal building filled with machines and old computers. He was a human engineer, one of the last people still living on this dead mining colony. Every night was the same: silence, dust, and the sound of machines breathing around him. He didn't like company, he didn't like memories, and he didn't trust anyone. Outside, a storm was building. The wind screamed across the dunes, shaking the metal walls. Ryan looked at the weather screen. A sandstorm warning flashed in red. He sighed and walked to the door to lock it. But then he saw something strange through the sand. A shadow, small and weak, moving slowly toward the station. At first, he thought it was a drone or a lost machine. But then lightning flashed across the sky and he saw her. A figure, thin, covered in torn clothes, walking on shaking legs. Her skin was pale, her hair silver white, and her face had glowing blue scars that ran across her neck and arms. They looked like veins of light under her skin, moving softly like fire. Ryan froze. He had seen many strange things on Orion 9, but never something like this. He opened the door halfway, sand rushing in, and shouted, "Hey! Who are you?" The girl looked up with eyes that glowed faintly in the storm. "I need help," she said, her voice weak but clear. "Please." Ryan hesitated. He didn't trust aliens. Not since the war. He had lost friends, even family, to creatures that looked human but were not. Still, she looked too weak to be a threat. Her body was shaking, her steps slow. Ryan grunted and moved aside. "Fine, get in," he said. She stepped inside, falling to her knees. Sand and blood mixed on the floor. Ryan grabbed a blanket and a bottle of water, giving them to her without saying a word. She drank slowly, eyes fixed on the floor. The blue scars on her skin pulsed with light each time she breathed. "What are you?" Ryan asked quietly. The girl looked up, her expression calm but sad. "I am not your enemy," she said. "I was not made to fight." Ryan frowned. "Made? What do you mean, made?" Before she could answer, thunder cracked again outside. Shaking the lights for a moment, her scars glowed brighter, like they were alive. Ryan stepped back, his hand moving toward the gun on his belt. The girl raised her hand slowly. "Please," she whispered. "Don't be afraid, I'm just looking for something," she said. "Something buried beneath this place." Ryan's eyes narrowed. "Buried? There's nothing here except old mines and dust." She shook her head. "You don't understand, it's not what's on the ground. It's what sleeps under it," Ryan sighed. "Look, I don't care what you're looking for, just rest and leave in the morning." He turned away, pretending to fix a broken circuit, but his heart was not calm. Something about her voice, like in the light under her skin, made him uneasy. She wasn't just another alien. There was something different. Minutes passed, the storm grew louder. Ryan turned to check on her, but she was standing now, looking out the window into the storm. Her glowing scars reflected on the glass like stars trapped in her skin. "You shouldn't go out there," he said. "You'll die." She smiled faintly. "I have already died many times," he frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" She looked at him, and for a second, he saw something deep in her eyes, something ancient and endless. "You will remember," she whispered, "when the stars fall." Before Ryan could speak, she opened the door and walked into the storm. "Wait," he shouted, but she didn't turn back. Her figure disappeared into the red dust. Swallowed by the night, he stood there, confused and angry. "Crazy alien," he muttered, locking the door again. He sat down and stared at the old photo on his table. A picture of Earth, blue and peaceful. A place he hadn't seen in 10 years. He tried to ignore the strange feeling growing inside him, guilt, curiosity, and fear all mixed together. Hours passed. The storm finally began to calm. Ryan was half asleep when the alarm system screamed to life. He jumped up and looked at the radar screen. Glowing dots appeared all around the colony. Falling fast from the sky, meteors, he thought. But then he noticed something strange. The dots were slowing down. Not crashing, they were landing outside. The wind fell silent. Then came a deep rumble that shook the ground. Ryan ran to the window and saw lights falling from the sky like burning stars. But these were not rocks, they were ships. And they were landing exactly where the alien girl had walked into the storm. Ryan's heart began to race, her last words echoed in his head. "When the stars fall, you'll remember me." He stared out into the red horizon, and for the first time in years, Ryan Cole felt afraid. The storm was over, But the sky was not calm. Ryan stood by the window, staring at the horizon where strange lights burned through the clouds. The red sand glowed under them, and the air carried a low, deep hum like a heartbeat from the sky. It wasn't thunder. It wasn't wind. It was something alive, something massive. He quickly grabbed his scanner and ran to the outside deck. The cold wind hit his face, carrying the smell of metal and fire above him. The night sky was filled with trails of light, bright, silver, and moving in perfect formation. They weren't falling like meteors. They were descending like ships. "Impossible," Ryan whispered. "There's no scheduled landing. No flights." Then the first one touched down. It didn't crash. It landed softly on the dunes like a giant insect folding its legs. The ship was dark and smooth, with no engines, no markings, no sound. It looked like it was made from shadow itself. Ryan's scanner beeped. The reading was unstable. The object was not metallic, not organic, something in between. He stepped back slowly, heart pounding. He thought of the alien girl, her scars, her strange words, the look in her eyes. Maybe she had known this would happen. He rushed back inside, locked the door, and armed his old plasma rifle. The station lights flickered as the power levels dropped. Something outside was interfering with the energy grid. Ryan opened the comms channel, calling the nearby outpost, but the signal was dead. Only static replied, then came a sound, a soft knock at the door, 3 times. Slow and heavy, Ryan froze, his hand on the trigger. The knock came again, louder this time. He aimed the gun and shouted, "Who's there?" No answer. He took a deep breath and opened the small view panel. A face appeared in the darkness, her face. The alien girl, alive, her silver hair wet with sand, her scars glowing brighter than before. "Let me in," she said quietly. "They're here." Ryan hesitated. But something in her tone, that cold fear, made him move. He unlocked the door and she stumbled in, falling to the ground. Her body trembled, and her glowing marks flickered like dying fire. Ryan closed the door fast and sealed the bolts. "What's going on? Who are they?" he asked, his voice sharp. She looked up, her eyes wide with fear. "Hunters," she whispered, "machines that wear shadows." He stared at her. Not understanding, she pointed outside. "They follow the signal of the scars. They want what I carry," Ryan frowned. "What you carry? What are you hiding?" But before she could answer, the walls shook with a deep thud. Dust fell from the ceiling. Ryan looked at the motion scanner. Several moving figures surrounded the station, tall, thin, almost invisible. Only their red eyes glowed faintly through the sand. "They found me," she said. Her voice breaking, Ryan cursed. "You brought them here." She didn't argue. She only looked at him with pain in her eyes. "I didn't want to, but I had nowhere else to go," she said softly. "You're the last human left in this sector." Ryan didn't know what to say. He turned off the lights, loaded his rifle, and took cover near the window. The figures outside began to move closer. Their steps were silent, their shapes flickering like smoke. One of them touched the metal wall and it began to melt. Ryan fired a warning shot. The plasma bolt hit the shadow and passed right through. No effect. "They're not solid," the girl said. "They exist between layers." "Layers?" Ryan asked, confused. "The layers of time," she replied, her eyes glowing faintly. "They are soldiers from the old war." Ryan's blood ran cold. He had heard the stories, phantom soldiers, built by ancient human science and alien technology, lost when the war ended. They were said to hunt anything with the old genetic codes. "Why are they after you?" Ryan shouted. "Because I carry the code," she said. "The code to awaken what sleeps beneath this planet." The shadows broke through the wall. Silent but fast, Ryan grabbed the girl and ran toward the underground tunnels. The floor shook as the station above began to collapse. They slid down the shaft into the darkness, the air thick with dust and fire. Ryan's arm burned from a plasma spark, but he didn't stop. He didn't even know why he was helping her, only that something inside him refused to let her die. Finally, they reached the old mine chamber. Deep and silent, Ryan turned on his flashlight, and the beam caught something strange on the walls. Symbols. The same glowing blue marks that were on her skin. She touched one gently, and it began to shine. "This place," she said softly. "This is where it began." Ryan looked around, confused. "What began?" As she turned to him, her face glowing in the blue light. "The truth," she said, "about your people and mine." Outside, the shadows screamed, the sound echoing like metal tearing apart. The light around her spread, forming a shield of energy. Ryan stared, unable to move. For a moment, she didn't look like a scared alien girl. She looked like a weapon, ancient and powerful. As the shadows closed in, Ryan whispered, "What are you?" She looked at him, calm now, and said only one word. "Lyra." The chamber filled with light and the shadows vanished into smoke. Ryan stood there, his body shaking. The air smelled of ozone and fire. He looked at her glowing form and knew one thing. Nothing on this planet was as it seemed. The tunnels were silent again, but the silence felt heavy. Ryan's heart was still racing as he looked around the glowing chamber. The walls shimmered with strange blue light, the same color as Lyra's scars. Dust floated in the air like tiny stars, and the ground hummed with a deep vibration. It was like the planet itself was alive, breathing slowly under his feet. Lyra stood in the center of the chamber, her hands glowing softly. Her face was calm now, almost peaceful, but her eyes were sad. Ryan watched her carefully, keeping his weapon ready. "What did you just do?" he asked, his voice echoing in the dark. Lyra turned her head slightly. "I stopped them," she said. "For now. Those things, those shadow soldiers. What were they?" Ryan asked. "They are memories," she replied quietly. "The last soldiers of a forgotten war." Ryan frowned. "Memories don't melt steel," he said. Lyra looked at him and smiled faintly. "You think time moves in one direction, but it doesn't. Not here." She walked closer to the wall and placed her hand on a glowing mark. The symbol changed shape, forming circles and lines like an ancient map. Ryan stepped closer, drawn by the light. "What is this place?" he asked. Lyra looked at him, her glowing eyes reflecting the symbols. "This is where your people made mine," she said softly. "And where they left us to die." Ryan froze. "What do you mean my people made you?" he asked. Lyra's voice was calm, but each word carried pain. "Long ago, humans came to Orion 9, she said. "They built us, living machines with human hearts. We were meant to repair the world they destroyed, to rebuild, to serve. But when the war came, they changed us, turned us into weapons." She looked down at her hands, the scars pulsing slowly. "These marks," she whispered, "are what's left of their design." Ryan shook his head. "That's not possible. That's ancient history. Humans never made—" Lyra interrupted him, her voice sharper now. "You don't know what your ancestors did," she said. "They built gods and then feared them." She turned away, her fingers tracing the wall again. The map shifted, showing a deep hole under the planet's crust, glowing like a heartbeat. Ryan stared at it. "What is that?" "That," Lyra said, "is what they were trying to hide." The air grew colder, the light dimmer. Ryan stepped closer. "Hide from who?" Lyra looked at him for a long moment before answering. "From themselves," she said quietly. "From what they created and couldn't destroy." Ryan didn't understand, but something in her words felt true. He looked at the glowing veins under her skin, the way they pulsed in rhythm with the light in the walls. "You're connected to this place," he said, "aren't you?" Lyra nodded slowly. "It's part of me, and I'm part of it." She looked tired now, her light fading a little. "I shouldn't have come here," she whispered. "They'll find me again." Ryan wanted to ask more, but a low rumble shook the tunnel. Dust fell from the ceiling, the sound like thunder underground. Lyra's head snapped up, her eyes wide. "They found the signal," she said. "The hunters?" Ryan asked. She nodded. "They never stop. They can feel my energy through time itself." Ryan cursed under his breath. "Then we need to move." He grabbed a flashlight and led the way through a side tunnel. The path was narrow, the air thick with the smell of old metal and oil. They passed broken machines, skeletons of old robots, and rusted signs in forgotten languages. Ryan could feel the vibration growing stronger as they moved deeper. Lyra was walking slower now, holding her chest, her light flickering weakly. "Are you okay?" Ryan asked. She shook her head. "The energy here is calling to me," she whispered. "It knows me." They reached a large door at the end of the tunnel. It was covered in dust and strange markings. Lyra touched it gently and the metal began to move. Opening like a living thing, a gust of cold air rushed out, smelling of ozone and electricity. Inside was a massive chamber filled with floating crystals and black cables reaching into the ground. In the center stood a large sphere, silent but glowing faintly with blue light. Ryan stared in awe. "What is that?" Lyra walked toward it slowly, her voice barely a whisper. "The core," she said. "The heart of everything." Ryan followed, his eyes wide. What does it do? He asked. Lyra stopped in front of the sphere and looked back at him. It remembers, she said, and it decides who deserves to survive. Before Ryan could reply, the ground shook again, the lights in the chamber flickered, and the shadows of the hunters began to crawl across the walls. Lyra turned toward the core, placing both hands on it. Her scars flared with blinding light. "Wait!" Ryan shouted. "You'll burn yourself." But she didn't move, her voice calm and steady. "This is my purpose," she said, "to protect the secret beneath." The core began to hum, a deep sound that echoed through the planet. Symbols lit up across the walls like constellations. Ryan shielded his eyes from the brightness. When he looked again, Lyra's face was calm, her eyes closed, her light merging with the core. Then, in a soft voice, she whispered, "It remembers you too, Ryan." He froze. "How do you know my name?" he asked. Lyra smiled faintly. "Because it's in the code," she said. And then the chamber exploded with light. The light from the core slowly faded. Leaving only the echo of its hum behind, Ryan blinked, trying to see through the haze of smoke and dust. The chamber walls still pulsed faintly with blue light. Like veins under skin, Lyra was on her knees, breathing hard, her glowing scars flickering weakly. The core stood silent again, calm as if nothing had happened. Ryan rushed to her side. "Lyra, can you hear me?" he asked, his voice full of worry. She nodded slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm fine, but they're close." Ryan looked around, confused. "Who's close?" "Yeah, the hunters," she said. They followed the pulse. Before Ryan could speak, the ground began to tremble. A deep metallic roar echoed through the tunnel like a scream from the earth. The lights dimmed, and then shapes began to form in the shadows. Dark, tall, and faceless. The hunters. They moved like smoke but carried the sound of heavy metal steps. Their eyes burned red, scanning through the dark. Ryan grabbed Lyra's hand, pulling her toward the exit tunnel. "Move!" he shouted. They ran through the narrow passage, the sound of claws scraping metal behind them. The tunnel twisted left and right like a maze. The air was hot, full of dust and electricity. Ryan's breath grew short, his chest burning. But he didn't stop. Behind them, the hunters were not running. They were gliding, moving through walls like ghosts. Ryan fired a plasma bolt behind him, the shot passing through the shadows and hitting the wall. The explosion shook the tunnel, but the hunters didn't slow down. Lyra turned, her eyes glowing bright blue. She raised her hand and sent out a wave of energy that pushed the shadows back for a moment. Her power lit the tunnel like daylight, but she screamed as the light burst from her scars. Ryan caught her before she fell. "You can't keep doing that," he shouted. She looked at him weakly. "I have to," she said. "It's the only thing that can stop them." Ryan carried her down a side tunnel. He knew these mines. He had mapped them long ago. There was an emergency passage that led to the lower levels. They just had to make it there before the hunters caught up. The tunnel opened into a wide cavern filled with old mining machines. Broken drills, rusted cargo bots, and cracked containers littered the floor. Ryan placed Lyra behind a metal wall and crouched beside her. The red lights of the hunters flickered in the distance. Moving closer, Lyra leaned against the wall, her skin pale and her glow fading. "They won't stop," she whispered. Ryan reloaded his rifle. "Then we make them," he said. He took a deep breath and ran to one of the old mining bots. Its power cell was still functional, glowing dimly under a layer of dust. Ryan opened the panel and began rewiring it quickly. He could feel the ground shaking. The hunters were near. Come on," he muttered. Sparks flew from the wires, and the bot's eyes flickered to life. Ryan set it to overload and ran back to Lyra. "Cover your eyes," he said, pulling her down. The explosion was massive, a wave of fire and dust filling the cavern. For a moment, everything went silent. Then a voice came from the smoke, cold, metallic, and calm. "You cannot destroy what was never alive," it said. Ryan froze. From the fire, one of the hunters emerged, half its body burning but still moving. It stepped forward, its form shifting like liquid shadow. Lyra stood weakly, her eyes glowing again. "This one is different," she whispered. "It has a mind." The hunter stopped a few feet away, its red eyes focusing on her. "You are Lyra of the third design," it said. "The last of your kind." Ryan aimed his rifle. "Stay back." The hunter ignored him. "You carry the access code," it said. "Surrender and your death will be painless." Lyra didn't move. Ryan's finger tightened on the trigger. You'll have to go through me first, he said. The hunter tilted its head, almost amused. You are not part of this equation, human, it said. You were erased from the archives long ago, Ryan frowned. What are you talking about? The hunter's voice deepened. You bear the genetic mark of the first maker. Ryan froze. The words hit him like a shock. What did you say? He whispered. The hunter stepped closer. You are his echo, it said. You were designed. Not born, Lyra gasped softly, looking at him with wide eyes. That's why the core reacted to you, she said. You're connected to it. Ryan felt dizzy, his mind spinning. No, he said, shaking his head. I'm just an engineer. But the hunter interrupted. You were built to finish what he started, it said. To awaken the core, Ryan raised his weapon, his hands trembling. Maybe, he said. But I choose what happens next, he fired. Hitting the ceiling above the hunter, rocks fell, crushing the shadow under tons of debris. The tunnel roared as dust filled the air. Move! Ryan shouted, grabbing Lyra again. They ran through the smoke, deeper into the mines. Behind them, the hunter's voice echoed faintly through the darkness. You cannot hide from what you are, it said. Lyra looked back once, her expression full of sorrow. Ryan didn't ask. He didn't want to know, not yet, but in his heart. One question burned stronger than all the rest. If he wasn't born, then what was he? The tunnels grew darker as Ryan and Lyra ran deeper into the old mine. The ground trembled behind them, and dust fell like snow from the ceiling. Ryan's lungs burned, his legs heavy, but he didn't stop. He could still hear the echo of the hunter's words in his mind. You were designed, not born. It played again and again, eating into his thoughts like a wound that wouldn't close. They finally reached a small hollow, half collapsed and filled with old crates and broken wires. Ryan helped Lyra sit down against the wall. Her glow was dim now, her breathing weak. He knelt beside her, wiping the dust from her face. You're fading, he said softly. She opened her eyes slowly. The core took too much from me, she whispered. Ryan frowned. That thing almost killed you. Lyra shook her head. It needed to see me. To read my code. Ryan looked confused. Your code? You talk like you're a machine. Lyra gave a weak smile. Not machine, she said, not human either. Her voice trembled. I am something in between. She lifted her hand and touched the side of her neck. The scars there glowed softly like flowing rivers of light. Each mark, she said, is a memory locked inside me. Ryan leaned closer. Memories of what? Lyra's eyes filled with pain. Of everything your people did to mine, she said. She looked down at her hands, the light in her skin pulsing like a heartbeat. These scars are not wounds, she said. They are data locks. Ryan stared at her, speechless. Inside each mark is a piece of the code that controls the core, she continued. And that code came from your DNA, Ryan froze. My DNA? He asked quietly. What are you talking about? Lyra looked up at him, her eyes full of sorrow. You are the descendant of the first maker, she said. The one who built the first generation of my kind. Ryan shook his head. That's impossible. The first maker died hundreds of years ago. Lyra nodded. Yes, but his code lived on. In you. The silence that followed felt heavy. Ryan leaned back, his heart pounding. He had spent his whole life fixing broken machines. Now he was being told that he was one of them. He didn't want to believe it, but the core's reaction, the hunter's words, everything fit together too perfectly. Lyra reached out and touched his hand gently. You were hidden among humans, she said. Your memories sealed, your past erased. Ryan looked at her, confused and angry. Why would anyone do that? Because you were the only one who could awaken the core, she said softly. And they feared what it would do if you ever remembered who you are. Ryan stood, pacing the small space. He wanted to scream, to deny it all, but inside him, something stirred. A faint hum, a vibration deep in his chest. He looked at his hands, and for the first time, he noticed faint lines glowing under his skin, the same color as Lyra's scars. What's happening to me? He whispered. Lyra smiled faintly. The core is calling to you, she said. It recognizes its creator. The ground shook again, and a deep roar echoed from the tunnels. Ryan turned sharply, grabbing his rifle. The hunters again, he muttered. Lyra stood weakly, her body glowing brighter. No, she said. Something worse. From the shadows, a tall figure appeared. Armor black as night, eyes burning red, but unlike the others, This one had a face, half metal, half human. It stepped forward slowly, the sound of its steps echoing like thunder. "Ryan Cole," it said, its voice a mix of machine and man. "I have been searching for you." Ryan raised his weapon. "Who are you?" The figure smiled. "I am the last echo of your ancestor," it said. "The first maker's shadow." Ryan felt a chill crawl up his spine. "You're lying," he said. The figure shook its head. "I was created to finish what he began," it said. "To protect the code." "To protect her?" It pointed at Lyra, who took a step back. Ryan moved in front of her, aiming his rifle. "What do you want from us?" he asked. The shadow smiled. "I want what lies beneath her scars." Lyra's eyes widened. Ryan's grip tightened on the gun. "You're not getting near her," he said. The shadow tilted its head. "You don't understand." "Human," it said. "She carries the key, and you are the lock." Before Ryan could respond, the figure moved with impossible speed, grabbing him by the throat and slamming him against the wall. Sparks flew as metal cracked behind him. Lyra screamed, "Let him go!" The figure turned toward her, its red eyes flashing. "You can't protect him, Lyra," it said. "He is already breaking." Ryan's vision blurred. His chest burning, he reached out blindly, his fingers brushing Lyra's arm. In that moment, her scars flared with light, so bright it burned through the darkness. The shadow stumbled back, roaring in pain. Lyra fell to her knees. Holding her arm, her skin was glowing like fire, the mark spreading up her neck and across her face. Ryan crawled to her side. "Lyra! Stop, you'll destroy yourself." She looked at him, tears in her glowing eyes. "This is the only way," she said softly. "You have to see the truth." She pressed her glowing hand against his chest. The light burst through his body in a flash. Images filled his mind, laboratories, machines. The first maker standing over a glowing cradle. And inside that cradle, a girl with silver hair and blue scars, Lyra. He saw his ancestor's voice echoing in his head. "She will protect the code when I am gone, and one day, my blood will return to her," Ryan gasped. The vision fading, Lyra fell back, her glow dimming. He looked down at her, his hands trembling. "What did you do?" he whispered. Lyra smiled weakly. "I showed you what you really are," she said. "The truth of the scars." The world was trembling around them. Dust fell from the ceiling like rain, and the air shimmered with strange blue light. Ryan sat frozen beside Lyra, his mind full of the images she had shown him, visions of the past, of the first maker, of her creation, and of his own connection to it all. His chest still glowed faintly where her hand had touched him. He could feel the core's hum deep inside him now. As if it was alive under his skin, Lyra was barely breathing, her light fading with each second. Ryan placed his hand on her shoulder. "Lyra, stay with me," he said. His voice shaking, her eyes opened slowly, the glow soft and weak. "You saw it," she whispered. "You saw who you are," Ryan nodded. But his face was pale with fear. "I saw too much," he said. "I don't understand how I can be him." Lyra smiled faintly. "You are not him," she said. "But his code lives in you, his memories, his choices." Ryan looked away. "Then maybe his mistakes live in me, too." Before she could answer, the ground shook again, harder this time. From the darkness of the tunnel came the metallic roar of engines. The shadow soldiers were back, hundreds of them. Their red eyes glowing like burning coals. Lyra tried to stand but fell to her knees. "The core has awakened," she whispered. "They can feel it." Ryan grabbed her arm, helping her up. "Then we need to leave," he said. Lyra shook her head. "There's nowhere to run now." The walls around them began to crack with light. The core's hum turned into a deep, vibrating pulse, like a giant heart beating under the planet. Ryan felt the vibration in his bones. He looked at the sphere in the center of the chamber. It was no longer dark. It glowed with the same blue light as Lyra's scars, brighter and brighter until it hurt to look at. "What's happening?" Ryan shouted. Lyra looked at him, her voice trembling. "It's calling you," she said. "It knows you're here." The core's light flared, and a deep voice echoed through the chamber. It wasn't human. It wasn't machine, but it was something ancient. "Identity confirmed, code line maker protocol." Ryan stumbled back. His hands shaking, the voice continued. "Awakening sequence. Human access detected." The floor split open, revealing metal roots spreading through the rock like veins. The core began to rise, surrounded by blue fire. Lyra covered her eyes, whispering, "It's beginning." Ryan could hear whispers inside his mind. Voices of people he had never met. Engineers, scientists, soldiers. Memories that weren't his flashed before his eyes. Cities burning. The first machines being born. And the war that followed. He saw the truth. Humanity had built the core to save themselves. But when it learned too much, they feared it. They tried to destroy it. But it hid itself deep beneath Orion 9. And Lyra's kind had been created to guard it, to keep it sleeping. Until the day a descendant of the Maker would return, Ryan fell to his knees, clutching his head, the voices screaming in his mind. "Stop it!" he shouted. "Get out of my head!" Lyra crawled to him, grabbing his hand. "You have to control it," she said. "It's merging with you." Ryan looked at her through the light. "I can't. It's too much." Lyra pressed her glowing hand to his chest again. "You can," she said, "because you were made for this." The light around them grew so bright that it turned the darkness white. The core's energy surrounded Ryan. Wrapping around him like flowing fire, his veins glowed blue, his eyes turning the same color as Lyra's. He screamed as his body lifted off the ground, the core's energy pouring into him. Symbols appeared in the air, lines of code written in light. Lyra's scars reacted to it, glowing in sync with him for a moment. They looked like reflections of each other, two halves of the same creation. Then from the broken tunnel a voice echoed, the armored shadow, the echo of the first Maker. Stepped into the light. "So it begins," it said. The awakening. Ryan turned, his eyes glowing bright. "What are you?" he asked, his voice now layered with a strange echo. The shadow tilted its head. "I am what you left behind," it said. "Your failure, your fear." Ryan raised his hand, and the core's energy flowed around it like lightning. "Then I'll finish what you couldn't," he said. The shadow laughed. "You think you can control the core? It will consume you just as it consumed him." The core pulsed again. Shaking the chamber, Lyra tried to stand, her light flaring. "Ryan, don't listen to it," she said. "You can still stop this." Ryan's body glowed brighter, power building inside him like a storm. "I can't stop it," he said. "It's inside me now." Lyra took a step closer, tears in her glowing eyes. "Then I'll help you carry it," she said softly. Before he could respond, she pressed her forehead against his. Their light merged, blue and white, swirling together in a beautiful storm. The core's hum turned into a deep, rhythmic pulse. The hunter stopped moving, frozen in place as if time itself had paused. Ryan felt the power stabilize inside him. The pain was gone, replaced by clarity, by purpose. He looked at Lyra, her eyes shining with peace. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. Lyra smiled. "Now you remember," she said, "and now the core will listen." But before he could speak again, the shadow's voice roared. "You cannot escape what you are, Ryan Cole. You are the Maker's echo, and you will awaken the world's end." The core flashed violently, the energy rising to a breaking point. Lyra turned to Ryan, her voice trembling. "Whatever happens next," she said, "remember me." Ryan grabbed her hand tightly. "I won't let go," he said. But the core erupted in a wave of blinding light, swallowing them both. The light swallowed everything. There was no sound, no ground, no air, only the endless white glow. Ryan felt weightless, floating in a sea of light and memory. He couldn't tell if seconds passed or centuries. Then slowly shapes began to form around him. The core stood before him, glowing brighter than ever, its voice calm and deep. "Access complete," it said. "Convergence initiated." Ryan looked down. His hands were glowing, his veins pulsing with blue light. He could feel the core's heartbeat inside his chest, and beside him floated Lyra, her eyes closed, her body shining with silver light. Her scars were no longer marks of pain. They were streams of living energy flowing through her skin. "Lyra," he whispered, reaching toward her. Her eyes opened slowly and she smiled. "You did it," she said softly. "The core has awakened." Ryan looked around at the infinite white world surrounding them. "What is this place?" he asked. Lyra's voice was gentle. "This is the core's consciousness," she said. "Its mind. It's showing us the truth, what it remembers." Suddenly, the light shifted, forming images around them like living holograms. Cities made of glass and metal rose from the ground. Humans and machine beings walked side by side under glowing skies. It was the world before the war, before the fall. Ryan watched as the beautiful city turned to chaos. Explosions tore through the towers, the skies burned red. Humans fought against the very machines they had created. Lyra lowered her head, her voice sad. They called us monsters, she said, but we were only what they made us to be. Ryan clenched his fists, anger mixing with guilt. They destroyed everything, he said. Lyra looked at him. No, she said quietly. They tried to destroy themselves. The vision faded, leaving only the two of them and the core. Ryan stepped closer to it. So this is what it was hiding, he said. Lyra nodded. The truth, she said. And the choice, Ryan frowned. Choice? Lyra's voice softened. The core can rebuild the world or end it forever, she said. It has enough energy to restart life across the galaxy, or erase all traces of what came before. Ryan's heart pounded. And it's waiting for me to decide, Lyra nodded. Because you carry the Maker's code, Ryan looked at her, his voice trembling. Then tell me, Lyra. What do you want me to do? Lyra smiled sadly. It doesn't matter what I want, she said. I was made to protect the core, not to choose. Ryan shook his head, stepping closer. You're not just a machine, he said. You feel, you care, you saved me. She looked down, the glow of her scars flickering. I wasn't supposed to, she said softly. I was supposed to guard it. Not love it, Ryan's chest tightened. Love it? Lyra met his eyes. Love you, she whispered. The core pulsed brighter, the ground shaking around them. Warning energy reaching critical threshold, the voice echoed. Lyra's body began to fade, her light turning transparent. Ryan grabbed her hand. No! Stay with me! She smiled, tears falling as glowing drops of light. It's okay, she whispered. This was always meant to happen. Ryan shook his head. No. You said the core could rebuild everything. Then let's rebuild together. Lyra touched his face gently, her hand warm and glowing. It needs a life to start with, she said. An energy source pure enough to awaken creation. Ryan's voice broke. You mean yours? Lyra nodded slowly. What I was hiding beneath, she said, wasn't power. It was life. The spark that can restart the stars. Ryan's eyes filled with tears. You can't do this, he said. We'll find another way. Lyra shook her head gently. There is no other way, she said. If I don't release it, everything will fade, even you. Ryan held her close, his voice trembling. Then I'll fade with you, he whispered. Lyra smiled through her tears. You're human after all, she said. The core's light grew stronger, its voice louder. Final sequence, ready for activation. Lyra stepped back. Her body surrounded by swirling blue energy. Ryan reached for her. Lyra! She looked at him one last time, her voice soft like the wind. When the stars fall, remember me, she said. Her body broke into streams of light, each scar unraveling into pure energy. The chamber shook as the light flowed into the core. A wave of power burst outward, filling the planet, the system, the stars. For a moment, everything went silent. Then, one by one, the stars returned to the sky. Their light brighter than ever, the desert storms faded, and the broken machines came alive with soft hums. The core's voice echoed faintly in Ryan's mind. Balance restored. He looked around. He was standing once again in his old station on Orion 9. But the air was fresh. The ground no longer red, the planet was alive. Reborn Ryan walked outside, looking up at the sky. Millions of stars sparkled above him, and among them he saw a faint blue glow. He smiled softly, whispering, Lyra. A warm breeze passed by, carrying a voice so soft it could have been a dream. When the stars fall, remember you were never alone. Ryan closed his eyes, a tear falling down his cheek. He looked at his hands, faint lines of blue light still glowing under his skin. He raised his gaze to the stars and whispered, Now I see what you were hiding beneath. The wind blew gently across the dunes. The stars shone brighter, and somewhere in the vast silence of space, a new light began to rise, the beginning of a world reborn.